Dear viewers, SpaceX, along with their Falcon Heavy to bring secret Spacecraft X-37B to orbit, is delayed due to several reasons. First, it was the weather, then something went awry on the ground. But SpaceX and the Space Force are set to once again try to send up the powerhouse Falcon Heavy rocket with the secretive X-37B Orbital Test vehicle on board Thursday night. And if all goes well, SpaceX could follow up with a Falcon 9 launch just hours later. Flying for only the 9th time ever, but 5th time this year alone, the Falcon Heavy on the USSF-52 mission is aiming for liftoff from Kennedy Space Center's Launch Pad 39A during a 4-hour window that opens at 7 p.m. with a backup opportunity Friday during the same window. Space Launch Delta 45's Weather Squadron forecasts an 80% chance for good conditions, which improved to 95% during a 24-hour delay. The two side boosters are making their 5th flight and will attempt a recovery landing at nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's landing zones 1 and 2. Their return after liftoff will bring the signature double sonic booms for each booster for many along the Space Coast, although the house rumbling sound could also be heard deeper into central Florida. The launch comes more than 2 weeks since poor weather, and then what SpaceX reported was a ground-side issue found less than an hour before liftoff forced delays. The launch is the 3rd time Falcon Heavy has flown for the Space Force, but it's the first time the X-37B Orbital Test vehicle made by Boeing is getting such a powerful ride. Its 6 previous launches, the first of which came in 2010, were all on either United Launch Alliance Atlas V or SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. Falcon Heavy can send the spacecraft with its top-secret payloads to higher orbits, though its 5.1 million pounds of thrust on liftoff is the most powerful rocket available for regular launches. A Space Force press release said the X-37B would be heading to new orbital regimes as part over the spacecraft's experimental test program to demonstrate technologies for a reliable, reusable, unmanned space test platform. The X-37B's missions have all been classified, with each mission lasting for longer durations. Its 6th trip, which concluded last November with a touchdown at the former shuttle landing facility at KSC, lasted nearly 909 days. To date, the spacecraft has traveled more than 1.3 billion miles and spent more than 3,774 days in space. Sometimes, the spacecraft brings along partners for the ride, including the 2nd time NASA has flown a seed-based experiment to study how exposed plant seeds fare on long-duration spaceflight while subjected to harsher radiation than at lower orbits. This helps NASA inform its Artemis program missions its plans for deep space, including trying to land a human on Mars by 2040. Just like the 6th trip into space, the latest version of the X-37B features a service module that allows for hosted experiments with partner agencies. It previously carried NASA's first go-at-a-seed experiment, the Naval Research Laboratory's photovoltaic radio frequency antenna module experiment, and was able to deploy the Falcon Sat-8 satellite developed by the U.S. Air Force Academy. The rocket first flew in 2018, sending up Elon Musk's Tesla on a trip out past Mars. It only flew 2 more times in 2019 before taking more than a 3-year break, but then began launching regularly, beginning with SpaceX's first Falcon Heavy mission for the Space Force last fall. The business of the Space Coast was apparent during the first go-round to launch Falcon Heavy, as rockets were on the pad at 3 launch sites. SpaceX also had a Falcon 9 awaiting launch at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Space Launch Complex 40 and United Launch Alliance had rolled its new Vulcan Centaur back out to Canaveral Space Launch Complex 41 for a wet dress rehearsal ahead of its upcoming launch. Since then, SpaceX has managed 2 more Cape Canaveral launches of Falcon 9 rockets on Starlink missions, but ULA won't fly its Vulcan Centaur until at least January 8th. If Falcon Heavy flies, it will mark the Space Coast's 71st launch of the year, with SpaceX responsible for all but 4 of them. That Falcon 9 is slated to fly at 11:01 p.m. during a 4-hour window that runs through 2:59 a.m. Friday and could set a record for SpaceX launches between Space Coast pads. The previous record was on October 13th when the Falcon Heavy Psyche launch for NASA from KSC preceded a Starlink mission from Cape Canaveral by 8 hours and 42 minutes. The first stage booster for the flight is making its 12th launch, and SpaceX is aiming for a recovery landing on the drone ship A shortfall of gravitas in the Atlantic Ocean. Thanks for watching the video.